What's going on YouTube, and welcome to the first review of this channel. Today we are doing SpongeBob, Sponge on the Run, SpongeBob's third movie. Yes, I said that right, SpongeBob's third movie. After the first one, which was good, second one was not so good. I really didn't have that many high expectations with this movie. I was intrigued by the new CGI, I was intrigued by the fact that it wasn't the normal animation that we're used to seeing with SpongeBob, and to get things started off, the new CGI version of this movie is actually very, very good. Nothing about the new CGI really made this movie bad. It literally just felt like a normal SpongeBob movie or an episode, because that's kind of really what this movie was. It was basically a 90-minute SpongeBob episode, and that's not a bad thing. As we start the movie off, SpongeBob is still working at the Krusty Krab. He's still taking care of Gary, still works for Mr. Krabs. Squidward still works there too, as we figured, and Squidward still hates his life, and that's fine. But, as we all know, Plankton wants this Krabby Patty secret formula. We're used to this. So yes, the movie starts off with him hatching a diabolical scheme. I think it was like the plan that he did was like number 3095 or something like that. It was some outrageous number, and it made me think, like, that's probably the actual real number that he's been trying to do this, and yet he fails again. So, as we all know, Plankton doesn't give up. He tries to find another way. Meantime, King Poseidon, who is king of the lost city of Atlantic City, needs a snail to help with his skincare. So what does Plankton do? He finds the nearest person that has a snail, which happens to be SpongeBob, who happens to work at the Krusty Krab. So what he does is he is the one who snail naps Gary. SpongeBob comes home, Gary is gone, so he has to find a way to get him back from King Poseidon. So he goes on this quest with Patrick, of course, because what's a SpongeBob movie without a quest with his good friend Patrick? And of course, the drive there, yeah, they take, it's so weird, they take a ride from a robot that Sandy builds earlier in the movie to help with Mr. Krabs. But it was weird, because I was thinking about it when they started, is didn't SpongeBob and Patrick drive in the first one? What was it? It was the paddy wagon. That was it. They drove the paddy wagon, but they couldn't drive in this one. So it really made me realize that there's no continuity in these three movies at all, which is fine. It's normal for anything SpongeBob related. So they're going on this quest. SpongeBob and Patrick bicker. They make fun of each other, say like both of them have like no brains and things like that. It's normal for a SpongeBob. Anything. It's normal for what SpongeBob and Patrick do. Along the way, they find themselves in like a live-action dream sequence. If that makes it doesn't even make any sense. I didn't even make sense while watching it, because they were dreaming and they were in live action, and they meet Keanu Reeves. So I guess you could say it's a good dream. I mean, who doesn't want to meet Keanu Reeves? I mean, that's great. It was great. Which, speaking of Keanu Reeves, he was probably one of the bigger bright spots in this movie, because he nailed his part very, very well, and I have no complaints. The live action sequence, however, is one of my main complaints about this movie, because it just wasn't very good. It didn't make any sense. They could have done what they needed to do in the live action sequence. They could have done it while underwater. See, the first two movies, they had live action sequences, which is fine, because those two sequences helped the story, whereas this one, it didn't help. It didn't do anything. All it did was give them something to do, but it just didn't help with the story. I mean, yeah, they grab something along the way while they're in the live action dream sequence, but I feel like they could have done it while underwater as well. But whatever. That was one of the negatives that I felt that didn't help the movie at all. So after this weird live action dream sequence, they find themselves in the lost city of Atlantic City. They do a lot of stuff that SpongeBob and Patrick normally do. They get sidetracked, which, for people that are aware, when SpongeBob and Patrick get sidetracked, things happen. They do a bunch of crazy shit, and then it was actually very funny. I was laughing throughout the whole entire montage. So while that's going on, Mr. Krabs, Sandy, and Squidward finally decide that they need to go after SpongeBob. He's been gone for a couple days, and they realize that they need SpongeBob. Mr. Krabs need him to run the Krusty Krab. Squidward needs him to, I don't even know, push him to play better on his clarinet, which is impossible, and Sandy needs him for anything because he's just a good friend. So they chase after him in the paddy wagon. The paddy wagon makes a comeback, and I'm like, yes! The paddy wagon makes a comeback, because I've been wanting that paddy wagon to make an appearance in anything SpongeBob related for the longest time, because I love that thing. So they meet up with SpongeBob. SpongeBob finally finds Gary, and then things start to unravel a little bit. But I will say this. The third act of this movie is phenomenal. It really sets this movie aside from the first two movies because there's just a big emotional pull to this third act, because every single character that SpongeBob interacts with, Squidward, Patrick, Sandy, and Mr. Krabs, all four of them have a nice touching moment with SpongeBob way back in their early days at Camp Coral, which this movie does set up the Camp Coral spin-off show very, very well. I'm hoping to watch it sometime soon. I may review it. Who knows? But all four of them, even Squidward, has a very touching moment with SpongeBob, and it really, really, it pulls your heartstrings a little bit, which is kind of hard for a SpongeBob-related movie, because, SpongeBob, he's nothing but funny, but this one, it really tugs at you a little bit. It was a very well done third act. It really made me feel good about the movie, and it really, really, really made this one probably the best out of the trilogy, in my opinion. All in all, the third act of this movie really sets it aside, makes it a lot better movie than what I thought it was going to be, because obviously the filmmakers really didn't want anything big out of this movie. They weren't trying to win a bunch of awards. They were just trying to provide some nice family entertainment with SpongeBob, make something funny, and it was. Especially in the first few minutes, there's a few throwbacks to the original episodes, and it was funny. I was laughing my butt off the whole entire time, which I haven't seen a single SpongeBob episode in a long time where I've actually been dying laughing, because a lot of the newer episodes were are shit. I just have to throw that out there. The newer episodes are not very good, so to go back to some of the classic stuff was very, very well done. I was very, very happy with what happened. And Keanu Reeves was probably one of the biggest highlights, because he was so funny. I never really pictured Keanu Reeves to be in this kind of movie, but he played his part amazingly. I hope he comes back in an episode instead of an animated form, and I'm like, yes, it'd be perfect. It would be so good. Also, a lot of people are probably aware that, are curious that whether this movie would have been well done in traditional animation or CGI. I really thought the CGI helped this movie out a little bit. I feel like it still would have been done well if it was the traditional animation that we're used to seeing with SpongeBob, but I feel like this movie was better with the CGI. I don't know, and that which you really wouldn't expect with SpongeBob, but I feel like this show or movie, excuse me, really, really needed something new, because we had seen two movies with a traditional animation, and I feel like with this new CGI, it was something new, it was something exciting and something fresh, and it was very, very well done. So all in all, I have to give this movie a B. Very great first few minutes with the nostalgia. It hit the nail right on the coffin. Normal SpongeBob episode, normal SpongeBob movie, kind of followed the episode formulaic. The plot was a little cliche. I wasn't a big fan of the live action sequence, and I feel like there could have been a little bit more of a bit funnier villain than King Poseidon, because to tell you the truth, he was kind of a knockoff of King Neptune, and I thought King Neptune would have been a lot better suited for this kind of movie. But I didn't really like King Poseidon as a villain. He didn't really strike me as somebody or some fish that would be a villain for SpongeBob, and he served his purpose well, but I just didn't really like him as a character. But all in all, this movie was a very solid movie. If you want to see more reviews, give me one of these, hit the subscribe button, and comment down below what movie or TV show that you want to see review, and I'll check it out.